Hello and welcome to the first Crime Watch of the new year. We've dramatic video of a crime in progress and graphic reconstructions of events that you might discover are familiar. If so, please call us. We're live, as always. And the detectives behind me from across the country are waiting for your call. The number is 01 811 8055.
Tonight, police need your help with two of the biggest ever post office break-ins, and we've reconstructed the raid at a Salisbury sorting office. The gang used highly specialised drilling equipment. We need information on a horrific arson attack at a house in Northampton. 3 people died. And on the murder of an 84-year-old lady who lived beside the railway track near Honiton in Devon. We also have a video recording shown for the first time of the extraordinary escape from Gartree Maximum Security Prison, Britain's first helicopter jailbreak. And later in the programme, we'll tell you what news there is so far of police investigations after last month's programme.
Around midnight on Sunday, the 1st of November, a couple in their 60s and a 7-year-old child died in a house fire in Northampton. Someone squirted petrol into the front hall of their home. Now, there's no known motive, and it might well be that their deaths were unintentional. And if so, detectives hope that when the arsonist sees this disturbing reenactment of what resulted from their action, he, she, or they just might come forward voluntarily. Our reconstruction begins on the Thorpelands estate in Northampton just after 10:30 p.m.
Hey, you little minx, get in that bed. Ah, now, no more nonsense, or Cyril will be after you. Sarah. Hey, Cyril, do you want a cup of coffee, love?
Yes, please, love.
Stacey lived with her grandmother, Florence Pennell. Florence, known as Penny, was popular, lively and outspoken, a matriarchal figure with 7 grown-up children. 2 years ago, she'd become engaged to Cyril Fensham, a former plumber, and they seemed very happy. That Sunday, by midnight, their home was all in darkness, and all 3 were sound asleep. On the other side of Northampton, at Rubicon Casino, Penny's son Christopher, a regular there, was leaving after a successful night. He'd won over £400. He picked up a curry on his way home at Wellingborough Road.
Just don't tell me you're filling your face again.
I'll leave off, Boris. I haven't eaten all day. Mum's been babysitting.
How you doing? You still in the taxis?
Yeah, I'm going to get my own car and get it plated now, though.
Have you got a car?
Thank you very much, sir.
I'll see you later,
Thank you.
mate.
Good night, sir. Thank you.
Chris lived with his mother, and having bought some coke and cigarettes, he headed home.
The Midnight News, this is Clive Bull.
It was after midnight when he pulled into Southolm Court. He sat in the car for a moment, listening to the local midnight news.
Murder. Independent Radio News. And the weather forecast, cloudy overnight.
Everything is here.
On the first floor, Christopher was watching BBC Two, a war film called Castle Keep. Upstairs, Cyril, Penny and Stacey were asleep. "50 yards away, this woman, a neighbour, had bumped her car and got out to check the damage. A man had come from the direction of Southolm Court. She remembers there were red slats on the back of his Renault Fuego. The car drove off towards Lumbertubs Way dual carriageway. Castle Keep ended at 12:30, and as it did so, Christopher smelt something like burning rubber. His first thought was to dial 999, but the phone wires were burnt through. The acrid smoke began to choke him as he tried to warn the family.
fire in Southholm Court.
Mum! Stacey! Cyril! Someone started a fire! Mum! Go round the back! People in there! Whereabouts are they? On the top floor!
Penny had jumped from the second-floor window.
Can you tell us what happened?
She just jumped.
Jumped from where?
Top.
Not at the top.
At first, firemen thought Stacey was asleep, but she'd inhaled fumes from burning furniture. Stacey died 4 days later. Penny died that evening of internal injuries. Cyril was dead by the time he arrived at hospital. Mr. Pritchett, what do you hope that showing that reconstruction will achieve?
You've shown some terrible scenes there. It may be that the person involved in this didn't intend these murders. However, the longer the matter goes undetected, the less likely it's going to be that such an explanation is likely to be believed. I'm hoping that whoever it is, once he's seen these things, will come forward and tell us, or anybody that knows of this person will ring us and let us know who that person may be.
The man who was seen by the witness leaving the scene, I gather you now know that he was unconnected with the fire, almost certainly. He was just a passer-by.
That's right. Scientists have told us that he was at the scene sometime prior to the fire being started. However, he is the only man that we haven't yet been able to trace from those people that we know were about at the time.
Well, there he is, in a red-style jacket. He's 6 foot tall, in his early 30s. She was able to give you a fairly good description of him, I gather.
That's right, a very good description. This man may have been visiting someone in the area for quite a sensitive reason, perhaps seeing a lady friend. If that man, or the person he was seeing, recognises themselves, I urge them, please come forward and tell us, because we do need to sort this matter out and eliminate this man.
How much confidence will be respected if he was, as you put it, seeing a lady friend?
If that is the situation, I can assure that man total anonymity and total confidence.
I shall now embarrass him, if I may, because we've got to find him by revealing more about the car. The red Fuego, it actually had red slats on the back, I gather, that are quite unusual.
That's right. The manufacturers only make them in black plastic. So the painting on the slats would have been done either by the current or a previous owner. So if anybody does know of a red Fuego with red coloured slats on the back, I need to find out who that person is.
Mr. Pritchett, it might seem superfluous under the circumstances, but someone's offered a reward, I gather.
That's right. A local Northamptonshire businessman has offered £5,000 reward for any information leading to the detection of this crime.
OK. Well, please do call us if there's any way you think you can help. Remember, you can call us in confidence and you can speak to a BBC researcher if you prefer. The number is 01811 8055. There it is. Or you can call the Northampton Incident Room. That's 0604, the code, 703 572. 0604, the code for Northampton, 703 572.
Well, some calls are beginning to come through already, but I'll just tell you briefly about some of the calls from last month's programme. More than 150 viewers rang about the bogus water board officials. One man would keep a householder occupied, while another searched the house for valuables.
All right. You are?
Well, after the programme, police had several promising leads which haven't yet actually come to anything, but investigations are continuing. There's nothing to report yet on the farmhouse robbery in Cheshire. If you remember, 3 men armed with a shotgun took £3,000 worth of jewellery and cash. The regional crime squad is still sorting through information from about 250 calls which we had that night.
There has been progress in the search for Linda Hunter from Carnoustie near Dundee. Linda, together with her dog Shep, has been missing since August when she left her home, probably to visit her parents in Glenrothes. Her car was found abandoned next day in Manchester. We had 200 calls with 2 probable sightings of her car. In fact, one viewer may well have followed it for a good 80 miles. Another viewer called to say they'd found a dog that might well have been Shep near Tentsmuir Forest, which is about 20 miles from Linda's home. The dog was in bad condition, as though it had been abandoned, and it had to be put down, so we can't be sure it was Shep. But as a result of that call, police have launched extensive searches of that area, and Linda's parents are now offering a reward of £2,000 for further information.
Well, we have more to report later on in the programme, and we'll keep you posted as the calls come in tonight. And now to Incident Desk, which this month is going to concentrate on that dramatic escape from Gartree Prison. Here are Constable Helen Phelps and Superintendent David Hatcher.
Tonight we're asking you to help us find 2 of Britain's most wanted men and help identify the man who staged their extraordinary escape from prison. On Thursday, December the 10th, a helicopter was forced to land inside the walls of Gartree Maximum Security Prison in Leicestershire. John Kendall was serving 8 years for burglary with further charges pending. He'd escaped from prison once before, 4 years ago. Sidney Draper was halfway through a 25-year sentence for a murder that took place during an armed robbery in 1973. But the identity of this third man who hired the helicopter and forced it to land at Gartree is still unknown.
8 days before the escape, on Wednesday the 2nd of December, someone calling himself Andrew Downs, together with another man, chartered a helicopter from Essex to the Harborough golf course. Gartree is 4 miles from there. We now know that that trip was almost certainly a dummy run, but we'd like to hear from anyone who saw anything suspicious in the vicinity of the golf course on the day of the escape. During the same flight, the men asked to be flown over a location which took them past the prison. Later that day, they were seen in this library in Market Harborough, studying maps of the area. On the 10th of December, the man who gave his name as Downs hired another helicopter, this Bell Long Ranger, from Talair at Stansted Airport in Essex. Ian Evans was a pilot that day. They took off from Stansted at 2:30 in the afternoon and made several circuits of the Market Harborough area. Ian Evans remembers Downs looking at his watch. By 3 o'clock, Kendall and Draper would be leaving the prison workshops at Gartree and heading out onto the playing field. Just after 3, Downs produced a gun and told Ian Evans to fly to the prison.
I don't know what went through my head in the first few seconds. He didn't really give me a lot of time to think, and at that time, obviously, I was going to do exactly what I was told. It was very apparent that the gun was real and he meant business.
They landed on the playing field. What happened next was recorded by a prison security camera. The doors created a slight problem for them. Kendall is the one in the shorts. Draper follows him into the helicopter. The man called Downs is seated next to the pilot. His real identity remains a mystery. The pilot was told to fly to the Harborough Golf Club, but visibility was too poor.
As I failed to find the golf course, Kendall, particularly in the back, was getting extremely excited and screaming abuse at me. Downs at this stage threatened to shoot me in the leg if I didn't get on and do it. And at that point, Kendall obviously decided that they'd changed their plans. He said to me, right, get down, we'll hijack one.
He was forced to land near the Welland Valley Industrial Estate in Market Harborough and was left handcuffed in the helicopter. In the next 5 hours, the 3 men hijacked a series of vehicles. The first was this Ford Transit. Outside Market Harborough, on the A427 Corby Road, they forced his Fiat Uno to stop. Once in Corby, Draper seems to have split from the others at about 5:30. He hasn't been seen since. Kendall and Downs apparently went to this car park, where they took this metro and its driver. They drove towards Stamford, then up the A1 to Sheffield, making several stops on the way. In Sheffield, they abandoned the car and its terrified owner near the railway station. Where they went after that is unknown.
Now take another look at the prison security video. The man with the white towel is Kendall. He's about 5'7", muscular build with sandy receding hair, and he wears glasses. Behind him is Draper. He's 5'10", medium build with dark brown hair, and he may have grown a beard since the escape. He also has a slight squint. We're particularly anxious for information about the third man who organised the escape. Several witnesses have helped compile this video fit of him. He's aged about 30, 5'7", slim, with receding hair and possibly a broken nose. He's believed to have an East London accent and is said to bear a strong resemblance to the character Jacko the Painter in the BBC's comedy Brushstrokes. Kendall and Draper are dangerous men with several previous convictions for violent crimes. It's vital that you ring us if you know where they are, or if you can identify their accomplice, the man who called himself Andrew Downs.
Next, Manchester Police need your help to find a man who could be anywhere in the country. His name is Andrew Longmire, although he uses a number of aliases. He could have shaved that beard off by now, so he may look more like this. We'd like to speak to him about 23 serious offences committed as far apart as Manchester and Devon. He's believed to carry a knife and might still have a shotgun. He's 31, 6 foot and heavily built, with dark collar-length wavy hair. So if you see him, or know where he is, call us now.
And finally, perhaps you can help us to identify this armed robber who was recorded on not one, but 2 cameras when he raided this Leeds Permanent Building Society in Hornchurch in Essex. Here he is on the other camera. On the 26th of October last year, he escaped with nearly £15,000 in cash and cheques. Look closely at that face again and call us if you recognise him. He's described as 6 foot tall, of medium build, with dark brown receding hair and a pale, thin face.
The number to ring, 01811 8055. There it is, 811 8055.
Well, as we've said so often on this programme, it's a fact that the least likely people to become the victims of a crime are the elderly. Few criminals sink that low. And that's one of the reasons that when it does happen, it's a matter of particular urgency that someone who's attacked an old person is found. Our next case tonight is the murder of an 84-year-old lady in Devon, Miss Ivy Batten. Police don't yet know for sure, but the motive was probably robbery. Somebody hoped she had cash or something else worth stealing at home. Our reconstruction begins near Honiton in East Devon, where Ivy Batten had lived all her life. The hamlet of Chute Bottom lies right on the main Waterloo to Exeter railway line, deep in the Devon countryside. Ivy Batten moved here to this bungalow overlooking the railway line with her brother 22 years ago. When her brother died in 1979, she stayed on alone. Ivy had spent all her life in the area. She came from a large family and was very well known and much respected. She had numerous nephews and nieces.
Come on, Janet, you've been out there long enough. I've made the tea, so come and have a cup.
Right, it hasn't taken as long as I thought, actually. Her great-niece Janet was a regular visitor. On Wednesday, the 25th of November, Janet had stopped by to see Ivy, who'd been unwell with a chill.
Have you done any Christmas shopping yet?
No, I haven't even started, Anthony. I haven't even bought my Christmas cards yet.
Oh, I've started to do my cards now.
Oh, that reminds me. I picked you up your stamps and a couple of chicken pieces.
Oh, thank you, dear. Oh, they look lovely. I should put one in the casserole and the other one can go in the freezer for now.
But that's why I got you 2 portions, because I thought that you would want to do that.
Well, thanks, dear, for what you've done today.
Oh, that's all right, Auntie. But listen, take care of that chill, OK? And I'll pop back and see you on Sunday.
Right, Ella.
Bye,
Thank
then.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Morning, postman. I was hoping I'd see you. Got 2 letters.
Right, lovely. One for
Oh,
you.
thank you very much.
Your paper's here a minute.
Thank you. Not a very nice day, is it?
No, it isn't. Bye now.
Bye.
Ivy spent most of Thursday working on her nativity basket. She'd made one every Christmas for years. She was known by many of the train drivers who regularly passed her home, and at 4:13, a driver remembers seeing her waving to him from her kitchen window. At 5:20, a neighbour passing the bungalow saw the place in darkness. But at 6:30, another train driver remembers the kitchen light was on, but there was no sign of Ivy. An hour later, at 7:30 p.m, her great-nephew, Frank, a farmer, drove by, having finished the evening milking. He noticed the front gate was ajar. At 9 o'clock next morning, Janet and her friend Ruth took her dog for his usual walk. Seeing the closed curtains, Janet assumed her aunt was having a lie-in because of her chill. Next morning, Saturday, all the deliveries arrived as usual. Then Janet and two friends saw the curtains still drawn and became really concerned. Janet found her aunt's body on the sitting room floor. She'd been beaten about the head and had died from her injuries sometime after the attack on the Thursday evening. When the police searched the bungalow for forensic evidence, they found that the electricity had been turned off at the mains. When the power was restored, 3 lights and the TV came on.
1 hour for lunch now, go.
A week later, in a field 800 yards away, 2 farm workers found a pair of well-worn purple and gold gloves and a hammer. Forensic tests have confirmed that these were used by Ivy Batten's murderer. Well, in charge of the case is Detective Superintendent John Essery. We'll start with the gloves and the hammer which we've brought into the studio here. In fact, looking at them more closely, I would have said these gloves were not so much purple and gold as purple and brown or khaki or mustardy coloured.
Well, that's true, but they're very, very distinctive. They're predominantly purple, but they've got this gold band. And in fact, the band on the right hand is much larger than that on the left hand. They're also distinctive in that both thumbs are worn. And if you look closely, you can see that they've both been repaired. Both thumbs have been repaired, probably at independent times, because this one, the left, is with blue thread, and the right with the dark thread.
So whoever used these gloves probably did some kind of manual work that made him wear at the thumbs.
That is a possibility, that it was wear. It's equally possible that they might have wanted freedom for the thumb in their trade or profession.
Now, these aren't bought in a shop. They've been knitted by somebody who might be watching now and might recognise them.
That's true. They're hand knitted. They've been hand repaired. The person that knitted them would recognise them. The person that repaired them would recognise them. And so too would somebody working or living alongside the offender.
Let's hope they would. Now, the hammer is also particularly distinctive. It's not an ordinary domestic household hammer, is it? It's an unusual one.
No, it's not. We all own hammers, and probably we can recognise our own hammers, but this one is very distinctive. It's what is called a blocking hammer or a planishing hammer. It's used in a variety of trades. It's used at technical schools. It's used in metalwork. It's used in precious metalwork, and it has been used, probably innocently, in its use in hitting a surface harder than its own, which isn't to be found in the household. And from our inquiries, we know that that hammer was made between April 74 and the 31st of December 76.
We can see it's split here. That makes it even more distinctive.
Yes, I think that the person that's used that hammer, the innocent person that's used that hammer, will recognise it. They'll recognise it by the crack on it. And I'm sure that if any viewer thinks that they've got a hammer like that, then I would ask them to go and have a look and see if they've still got it in their toolbox.
Right.
It may have been stolen from them.
Let's hope so. One particularly important clue also is that there was a car seen just a few yards from the bridge very near Ivy's home. What about that?
Yes, that car is facing in the chute direction, just a few yards from Ivy. It's variously described. We think that it's possibly a white Viva with a black roof, but it could also possibly be a Cortina. It's been described by 3 witnesses, and that one was there in the evening between 18:30, that's 6:30, and 7:30 on Thursday the 26th.
Right, finally, this person may be, and if so, do you think somebody might be sheltering them?
We've given the gloves and the hammer very wide coverage in the southwest. Nobody's come forward. It is possible that somebody's shielding them. To that person, I would say this. The person that committed this offence was probably a burglar. He may burgle again. And if he does, and if he's cornered, will he murder again? And if the answer to that is yes, then my message to the person that's shielding him is simply, could you live with your conscience?
Mr. Essery, thank you. And please help if you can, particularly if you know anything about those gloves or the hammer or the car. The number to ring here in the studio is 01811 8055, or you can dial Devon and Cornwall Incident Room direct. It's 0392 3991. That's 0392, the code for Exeter, 3991.
And I've just heard we've had 2 sightings that look promising of Andrew Longmire. I'll give you more on that in a moment. For now, though, a welcome return to Aladdin's Cave. See if you can recognise anything from a hoard of property that's been recovered by police in Thames Valley, in Tayside, in Manchester and in South London. From the Antiques Roadshow, here's John Bly.
Thank you, Nick. Well, there are very many of these little Victorian oak casks about, these spirit casks. This one, I think, is unique because it's inscribed Arthur Lee Football Club, won by J. Miller in 1885. So I hope someone from Mr. Miller's family is watching. More drinking and high spirits and games in this cabinet, for when you open it up, indeed it looks like its own travelling liquor palace. Isn't that wonderful? Set of glasses, 3 decanters. If you want a game of cards, there's the cribbage board. And inside here, you press a secret button, and there's the place for the cards and the pegs for scoring. And after all those hijinks, what better than an apothecary's chest to make you feel better? Now, we've got a lot of pictures in this programme, and I'd like to draw your attention to these 2 prints, which are actually 71 years old today. For on the back is the copyright date, 12th of January, 1917. Now, talking of pictures, this one is said by 2 leading authorities in the field to be the work of Sir Joshua Reynolds. Well, you'd be excused for thinking he's not very well, but in fact, they used a lot of white makeup in the 18th century. Not so, or when this young lady was depicted in crayon round about the 1830s. It was more fashionable to look healthy, and she does indeed, and very attractive as well. Now, talking of things attractive, to a superb casket. I'm going to tip this up to show you, this wonderful cabinet work on the top here. This is Amboyna wood inlaid with brass in a sort of boule pattern with mother of pearl inlay, and when you open it up, you'll see it's in fact a gentleman's writing cabinet. Sorry, not a writing, it's a dressing cabinet. And you pull these 2 aside like that, and you'll see, although some of the bits are missing, it's still a very important example of its type. All these lids are French hallmarked silver, and the initials on the front of each one is BR. Now, over the years, we've had many charm bracelets, but this one I did want to show you because it's got a set of keys. Each one is cut to form a letter, and the word spells Flo Keen. So let's hope Flo, or someone from her family, is watching. And finally, to my favourite item, a little mid-19th century French walnut casket, which opens like its own Aladdin's Cave. And inside you see the tools necessary for lace making and silk work, with cotton reels, scissors, and even an enamel thimble. Again, almost certainly French, and what a delight, and a sad loss for someone somewhere. Let's hope the owner is watching.
And the number to call, 01811 8055, 01811 8055, and we'll be showing you some of those things again at the end of the programme. And remember, if you mark your valuables with your postcode, you're much more likely to see them again if they are stolen, and it makes life very difficult for the thief. Some more news from previous programmes. 3 Manchester men have been jailed for stealing videotapes after 2 of them were videotaped themselves by security cameras at a shop in Lincoln, and they were recognised by Crimewatch viewers. And other viewers of our programme last April recognised Paul Kroll, who robbed a series of building societies, and he's been sentenced to 14 years.
We're getting more and more sightings of Andrew Longmire. I rather suspect that the police are going to catch up with him very soon. And I can tell you that we've had several calls about the Northampton arson, which are intriguing, and some of them have been very interesting to the police. In particular, there is information that one man was in that area, that he knows the police want to talk to him. He's worried that his family will find out why he was there, and he shouldn't have been there. And all I can do is assure that caller that your call, if you ring again, really will be in absolute confidence. Your family will not find out. Finally tonight, the trail left by a gang who pulled off two of the biggest thefts ever from the post office. The first was in November at the main sorting office in Salisbury. The second was here at Oxford on Boxing Day night. We've reconstructed the Salisbury break-in, and we've pieced together what police believe is the most likely sequence of events. For security reasons, though, we've had to conceal certain elements, and we've taken some dramatic license. Everyone you see is an actor, and some of the dialogue is supposition. I should add that the insurance company involved is offering a very, very big reward for information, leading to conviction of the gang. It's Saturday, the 28th of November, in the cathedral city of Salisbury, in Wiltshire. By 6 o'clock that evening, the sorting office was being locked up for the night.
6 o'clock, news time. This is David Bellum. Wreckage from the South African plane that crashed with 160 people on board has been spotted in the Indian Ocean.
A witness was waiting for someone in the station car park opposite the sorting office entrance. He saw two men get into what he thinks was a black VW Golf. He noticed a black Labrador on the back seat. The two other men went into the shadows and seemed to exchange something. He thinks the registration was either C or E, and the fourth man drove off in a Transit, possibly white and blue. It could have been the same men who, with at least one other, then drove into the British Rail Yard behind the sorting office.
Get the rest of the stuff down here. Right, come on, lads. We're through.
It might have taken the men at least an hour to cut their way through several doors and then carry in their gear. The drill they brought to bore through the safe room wall weighed 200 weight.
Hey, one of you give us a hand with this drill, will you? Come on.
It had a diamond-tipped cutting edge.
Come on. Right. Ready? Yeah, a minute. What's wrong with the ruddy thing? Come on.
At this stage, the gang must have realised they'd brought the wrong piece of equipment. Either they had to abandon their plan or find a replacement part.
Go and look at one of those vans in the yard. See if there's anything in there we could use. Right.
They didn't find what they needed, but they may well have seen a label giving the address of a local tool company. This hire shop was just around the corner, but for some reason another branch south of Salisbury was visited that night. This is on the busy Southampton Road.
We're not sure what time the break-in happened, but perhaps if you were on the Southampton Road, that's the A36 on the outskirts of Salisbury, you remember seeing something unusual. At about 9 o'clock that night, a woman was parking opposite the sorting office. She noticed a man in a camel coat shouting to someone in the yard, who must have been one of the gang. Crisps, cigarette packets and discarded matches were found in the sorting office restroom, where presumably the burglars waited. A British Rail employee was on his way to the social club next door. He knew there shouldn't have been anyone in the sorting office, so he went to find a friend who he knew worked there.
All right, all right. Yeah, love, yeah. Here, is there supposed to be someone in over there tonight? Ah, of course not. Saturday. Well, why? I just seen two blokes in there, I think.
Give over.
Well, no, they seemed to duck down behind a couple of chairs when I walked by.
Eh?
Yeah, one of them had a sort of woolly hat on, and the other a dark coat.
Sure?
Yeah.
We better go and have a look then, haven't we?
Yeah, it was over there.
It was probably about 9:20 when they checked out the building, but they saw nothing unusual.
Come on, let's go and finish our pints.
Yeah, all right.
They got away with £250,000. But they may well have been disturbed, for they left behind most of their equipment. Someone must have had a second set of drills, for similar tools to these were used 4 weeks later in the Oxford break-in. Though these burglaries happened in the south of England, this gear comes from the north. Near Leeds over 2 years ago, the drill rig was stolen from a warehouse. Then in Manchester, just 2 weeks before the Salisbury raid, oxyacetylene cutting equipment was stolen. And in Leicester, someone bought a crowbar which was left behind in the Oxford raid. The robbers brought their tools in these holdalls, including this one, a woman's brown bag, and maybe you recognise this matching pair of ladies' gloves. This plastic funnel was also found in the bag. It's been traced to a chain of shops based north of Coventry. Or maybe you recognise the spanner with Gaz or Kaz written on the sticky tape. The drilling rig is used in the building trade, but it's most unusual. Only 28 have ever been sold in Britain. What's more, this drill had been adapted with a steel plate to accommodate larger core bits. Perhaps someone from an engineering firm remembers an unusual request to make or fix this plate. And who wrote A on the outer rim of this core bit? And B on this one? Police need to know where these bits come from. Builders usually identify them with marks to monitor how much each one's been used. And where has the drill stand itself been stored since it was stolen from near Leeds 2 years ago? Police also need to trace the man seen in the camel coat, who might have had a good look at the robber in the lumber jacket. And whose was the black VW Golf and the black Labrador? The insurance company is offering an enormous reward, £50,000. Detective Chief Inspector Terry Ford is in charge of the case. We'll be talking to him in Crimewatch Update, but you can call him right now on 01 811 8055. There's the number, 01 811 8055, or you can call the incident rooms direct. The Wiltshire Police are on 0380 77311. That's 0380, the code for devices, 77311.
or the Oxfordshire Police are on 0865 249 881. That's 0865, the code for Oxford, 249 881.
If you find that the lines are busy, please persevere. We're here till midnight, and you'll find all the local relevant police numbers on CFAX on page 186, or you can write to us at Crimewatch UK, BBC Television, London W12 8QT.
We are very conscious that we show you the most serious and unpleasant crimes each month, but crime isn't something we should be frightened of so much as something we should together determine to stamp out. And as you can see from the activity behind me, hundreds of viewers are doing that right now. So stay with us for the results in Crimewatch Update at 11:10. If you can't wait up till then, don't have nightmares. Do please sleep well. Good night.
Good night. Welcome back. In the past hour, we've been collating all the information that's been coming in from the calls. Several callers have put names to faces that we showed earlier on. Disappointing response on Aladdin's Cave, though. Only 18 calls on that, so we'll have to see what happens on that later. Nick.
Well, first, the arson attack on a family home in Thorpelands Estate in Northampton. It was on Sunday, the 1st of November. Someone poured petrol through the letterbox and set the house on fire. 3 people were killed, including a child of 7. Arthur Pritchard, a terrible case. What sort of calls have you had tonight?
We've had a number of interesting calls, particularly the man that rang up who was worried about his family finding out. I thank him very much for ringing back again, and I appreciate what he says to me, but please, you may have some information that you don't realise is significant. Will you please contact me again, either here or at the incident room in Northampton? Your information may be the vital piece in the jigsaw that we're trying to close up.
Now, this is the driver of the red car,
That's right.
the Fuego,
That's right.
and obviously you do not connect him with the fire. He's rung up, I know, the second time and said, look, I had nothing to do with the fire. You know that.
I accept what he says, but he still may have vital information which may lead us to the man who does have something to do with the fire.
One of the other important calls you had, I know, was from a woman. What was that
Yes,
about?
we've had 2 calls from a woman who was frightened to give us any more information. Again, I'll repeat my promise that I will respect any confidences, and that woman can ring me either here or at Northampton Incident Room, and I'll meet her anytime, anywhere, if she has any information which she thinks will be useful in the inquiry.
Mr. Pritchard, thank you very much. Sue.
Well, now the murder of Ivy Batten, an 84-year-old lady who lived near Honiton in Devon. She was well known in the neighbourhood, and she liked to make a point of waving to the train drivers as they passed by on the line by her bungalow. Detective Superintendent John Essery has been going through the calls. You have had quite a lot of calls, but nothing really substantial, particularly surprising on those gloves, which are so distinctive.
That's right. We've had a number of interesting calls on the gloves, but we haven't had that vital call from the person that can recognise them by their colour, by their distinctive band, and by the wear and repair to the thumbs. And the hammer, we've had calls on the hammer. We've had people that may have lost the hammer. It is only 3/4 of an inch square on the handle. And the handle has got that crack.
Right, it is quite a slender hammer, isn't it? So we must make the point that it's not the size of an ordinary domestic hammer. And the car that was seen very close to Ivy's house that Thursday night that she died.
We're still waiting on calls to the identity of that vehicle.
Please, if you recognise any of those things, give us a call.
John Bly's been with us again tonight from the Antiques Roadshow, making a welcome return with Aladdin's Cave, a treasure trove of property recovered by police. Let's see if some of it tonight has been recovered by its rightful owners. John.
Well, we've had lots of calls on the little spirit barrel here. There's certainly from Scotland, where people have rang up to identify where it came from. Who owns it? Yet we still don't know. We did have some calls. People recognised the pair of, or the brace of pheasants up here on the mantelpiece. These wonderful table decorations made of silver. So we hope we've got an owner for that. Then somebody spotted the red lacquer and gilt metal clock, which is in the 18th century Louis style, which is exciting to find the owner for that. And finally, and I'm not sure whether I'm thrilled or rather sad, but someone has positively identified that beautiful young lady.
Next, those two post office break-ins. We reconstructed the first one, which was in Salisbury, where at least 5 men broke into a sorting office. They stole £250,000 using a diamond-tipped drill to gain access. Mr. Ford, has anyone bitten on that enormous reward, £50,000 offered by the insurers?
No, nobody has bitten on the £50,000, but it's early days, really, in relation to that.
What's the best information you have had, then?
Well, we've had a witness who's reported seeing the white van.
That's the transit van that was parked behind the sorting office?
In the post office, yes. A witness has now said they've seen that in Southampton Road, which was the scene of the other burglary.
Right, that was the hire shop where they stole some equipment, so the two are evidently linked by a witness.
Yes, and I would appeal for anybody else who was in the Southampton Road area that night who may have seen that van and its occupants to contact us.
Almost farcically, the gang dumped all their equipment, lots and lots of tools, I mean several hundredweight of tools.
Well, we think they didn't mean to do that. We think that they made off, they were frightened by something that made them abandon their tools. In relation to the drill, we've had lots of calls about the drill saying what it is, but what I really want to know is where has that drill been for 2 years? We really need to know that because it's in new condition, hasn't been used since it was stolen until this offence.
And the bags in which the tools were brought to the scene of the robbery, several of those were distinctive. One in particular is a brown bag, probably a woman's bag.
Yes, it's like a shopping bag, a hold-all type bag, very, very distinctive pattern, and a pair of almost matching gloves. They're not identical, but they almost match. Now, somebody must recognise that bag. We really need to know where that bag comes from.
Look at the pattern on the side of it. Thank you very much. Sue.
Now to incident desk with David Hatcher and Helen Phelps. David, first of all, what calls did we have on the Gartree prison jailbreak? Dramatic video.
Very good response, Sue. Over 70 calls, and 10 of them have given us possible names and addresses of that third man, remember, we showed you involved in the escape, who gave his name as Andrew Downs. So they'll be followed up. We've had 11 possible sightings and locations of the two escapees, Kendall and Draper. And remember, they're very dangerous men, so if you know where they are, tell us now and don't approach them or get involved yourself. One of those calls, incidentally, alleges that they're in Benidorm. I never seem to get those kind of jobs.
Helen, while we were on the air last time, we had quite a lot of calls on this Andrew Longmire character. Any more news on that?
Marvellous response. Well over 70 calls, and that's here in the studio. The officer is sifting through the information right now. The information has provided a lot of sightings, but we need to know where he is now. He is a dangerous man, and he needs to be traced.
Right. And finally, there was the armed robber at the Leeds Permanent Building Society in Hornchurch in Essex, and we showed a photo of him on security cameras.
That's right. Back in October last year, we've had 3 names and addresses to follow up there. In fact, 2 of them give the same address. So that's, or 2 people about the same address. So that one looks very promising. And there's also some hotter information that I gather has just come in that we'll be looking into that one. There's also a suggestion that the same man tendered a stolen cheque card in the Midlands, and a viewer's asked to see that picture of him again. And as a bonus, and we often get strange spin-off bonuses, a suggestion that we have a man with a sawn-off shotgun, and we've been given an exact name and address to follow up. Possibly nothing to do with this case, but certainly well worth following, because of course those things are illegal.
Right, David, Helen, thank you.
I have some information. I must say at this moment it is unconfirmed, but there are reports that a man wanted by police represented on this programme has given himself up. That's it for this month. If you've any information, please don't keep it to yourself. The lines are open until midnight on 01811 8055. That's 01811 8055. We'll give you local numbers in a moment, and you can always write to us.
Tomorrow morning at about 11:45, there's going to be further news of our results in open air. And next month and from now on, we're going to be back on Thursday nights. So we'll see you next on Thursday, February the 18th. Join us then.
Meanwhile, with your help, crime is being solved right now and hopefully deterred tonight. And our thanks for helping and for watching. Don't have nightmares, do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.